Well, this is the fifth round and it is the third explanation of the comprehensive mind discipline. Today, I want to tell you about the inhaling and the exhaling respiration of Danjan, Zen, mind control, incantation practice, listening to the music, etc. In this round, I will explain some of the important items of the mind discipline. I'll have the continuation of the last week from now on, where these are the effects of the Dhan practice, and it is said that in the Western society, the meditation and this Dhan practice gets popular and more people are said to be interested in this practice nowadays. When I practice in reality, I feel somewhat heated on my back, but as the level of my practice is low, I do not feel all of the sensation mentioned last week. However, I feel some of the sense every day. Here, some of the beginners can feel somewhat stifling or suffocating, and at this moment it is recommended that he should not consult an expert. He should consult an expert of Dhan, or it may be better to begin after he learned some of the beginning course of inhaling and exhaling of Dhan in Sundawan. Here, Sundawan means a place where an expert of Dhan teaches the general people. In Mr. Bakchano's homepage www.ufogalaxy.co.kr, question and answer 23rd line 446, there is a very detailed explanation concerning this symptom. However, this part has been erased now. If you feel somewhat suffocating, you may practice this Dhan too hard. I think that Dhan breathing practice is a quite good method for our health and the enhancement of our spirit. However, in our country, there are not a few persons who practice in the school of Dhan suffer by the bad effect of Dhan practice. For instance, they suffer by Juha Imma. Juha Imma means some of the heat or obsessing spirit makes him suffered. Or Sangichung. Sangichung means some of the heat or ghee gets together in the upper parts of the body and he suffers from it. Here, Imma. Imma means a devil comes into a body. Imma has a special meaning. That is, it means being의. Imma means being의. Being의 means obsession, which meaning is well explained in the column of spiritual science. Usually, the beginners tend to inhale and exhale for a long time, as much as they can do, and sometimes it can be too much. Maybe this trend was caused by his too much desire. However, it is recommendable that one should not go too much. And he had better do it with the composer of the mind naturally in accordance with the length of respiration or breathing. When some of the negative symptom is seen, you have to stop this practice at once. The symptom of the bad effect due to the upward ghee, which I mentioned above, is as following. One can feel that the inner side of the mouth is dry without enough saliva, and sometimes one can feel some headache, and he cannot sleep well. What is the reason that one can feel dry in his mouth? The reason is that some hot energy comes up into the head, and therefore water element in the mouth evaporates and disappears. On the contrary, when the practice is done well, some sweet-tasted saliva gets together in the mouth, and Danjan means the place where the cosmic energy gets together, or 용천열. 용천열 means it is situated in the center of our soul of the foot. This is 용천열. Becomes somewhat hard. This phenomenon can be explained with the theory of 수승화강. 수승화강 means water element goes up and fire element goes down. Therefore, when we watch some symptoms carefully, that is when that sort of symptoms which I mentioned before appear to us, then we can decide whether we practice in the right way or not. As far as I know, the Dhan practice needs the will and effort first of all, but above all, some causative occasion or some karma which can make the person discipline his or her mind and body is needed. I think that this karma began in the previous life, that is, the pre-life. Therefore, a beginner who has no experience in the pre-life may find it very difficult to reach some high-level step with only Dhan discipline. I'd like to emphasize again that it is not good to discipline oneself over its limit. And when some malfunction appears, it is good to think that he has nearly no relationship with the pre-life, and he had better stop there and lead a common life honestly. It will be better not discipline Dhan when he thinks that he has no purified mind, or when he has a wrong purpose of the discipline, or when he has no cause and occasion. It would be better for a beginner to learn how to inhale and exhaling from an expert for about 1 or half a year before he begins the normal course of breathing. And this can help him much and mitigate the possibility of danger. Well, I spoke concerning Dhan practice a little long time, and this is what Mr. Bakchano explained. And what it means is that there are some of the things we have to bear in mind a little in practicing breath practice, where I mentioned the malfunction of the Dhan practice. However, in my comprehensive mind discipline, the length of the breathing practice has only 10 minutes, and we pray to God to protect our body before we begin to breathe. There is no bad element or danger in practicing our breathing Dhan discipline. As soon as this 식단 practice comes to an end, the next Zen practice begins. In this case, we close or half close our eyes and cut all of the thought. Even if a piece of thought appears in our mind, we cut it as soon as possible and only sit in void or zero state for about 10 minutes. When our brain wave falls to alpha wave from beta wave, our subconsciousness begins to function. It is said that when we are awake, our brain wave stays in the beta state, and when we are in the deep state of meditation, the brain wave is in the state of alpha, and when we sleep, the brain wave is in the theta state. Anyway, as we are in the state of alpha wave, we practice the mind control method. The mind control method is a sort of meditation, and when our brain wave reaches the alpha state, we modulate the subconsciousness, and as a result, we can change the thinking and emotional patterns into the ideal state. Let's consider what the real aspect of this method of mind control is as we read the introduction passages which are in the neighbor blog. Silver mind control was originated by Mr. Joseph Silver of America, and it is prevalent in about 100 countries in the world as a means for developing one's possible ability. Even though it was over 30 years since it was introduced, it has maintained its popularity up till now, and the reason of it may be the consistent truth in the world of mind discipline, even though the global world has been advancing rapidly. More than that, this method can be brilliant in the future world, for the pushing to an area of our inner mind should advance and flourish in accordance with the outer environment. It is said that lots of electronic apparatus are sold today, and thanks to the commercial films of companies, the basic understanding of the brain wave is common to many people, and it is very desirable thing. They use this sort of apparatus in order to develop the studying capability, for they think that when they reach the alpha wave, their ability of brain concentration or memory can be enhanced considerably. Silver mind control is a scientific brain-using method with one's mind and thought without the help of that kind of apparatus. As the human brain is prone to be computer programmed in some way, and as it functions as it is programmed, this method is composed of programming waves of our brain in the state of alpha of the brain wave. Well, these sentences I mentioned up till now are from Neighbor. When one practices the mind control method, he usually lowers the frequency of the brain wave to the level of alpha, and it is commonly done with counting numbers from 100 to 1 reversely. But in our mind control discipline here, we have already done Shindan, Shikdan, and Zen practice, and therefore we consider that our brain wave has already reached the alpha state. I learned this mind controlling method in 1980s from an expert, and I use two ways in practicing this method. The one way is the mirror method, and in this case I set up a big mirror just in front of myself with the eyes closed. Then, if I feel that I have some of the bad or negative character, like the sex-oriented desire or too much envy, etc., then I make such a bad images on the mirror and break those negative images with a hammer, like this. When this work is done continuously, my negative character turns more and more into good or a positive one in the subconsciousness, and I think it is a good scientific method. Once the thought, speech, and activity of a person are recorded in one's spirit, he or she cannot erase them at all. However, we can make them weak. As the degree of the practice gets high, if we want to make the occurrence of the pastimes which we do not want to appear in our mind or to remember, we can do it. There is another positive method in which we make some of the good images on the mirror and make the images distinct and conspicuous as we look at these images continuously day in and day out. The second method is the screen one, in which we can make a screen in front of us nearly 5 meters ahead with the eyes closed or closed, of course, and we make some of the wonderful scenery or gorgeous images on the screen, and with that scenery, we discipline our mind. Especially, it is very good to listen to the music as we make a beautiful scenery on the screen. When the mind control method comes to an end, we pray to God, or 공, 이기, 무국, 대도, 이론상, 법신불, to the God of the universe. Last but not least, we listen to the music as a course of purifying our emotion. This music listening practice is also a course of important mind discipline with both the Dan practice and mind control method combined. The following sentences can be seen in the theory of Shindan, which Mr. Hong Tae-soo wrote. This is Shindan. According to his explanation, there are several methods to inhale 기 with the method of Shindan. That is, there are 심공, which is done by the function of mind, 가공, in which they accumulate 기 as they sing songs, 청공, which is done as they listen to the sermon of a church or the explanation of an academic meeting, 덕공, in which they can accumulate 기 as they read books, 시공, in which they receive 기 as they think of the things that they see, and they receive 기 through the crown chakra. Crown chakra means 백회, the place on the top of our head through which the cosmic energy and our body communicate with each other. And 은공, in which one can relate the meaning of what it says with his thought. And then he can relate it with the crown chakra to inhale the cosmic energy. And 각공, in which he can repel the evil spirit of the God that rules the individual consciousness. That is, he can repel the devil as he recognizes himself. And also he can complete his purpose of enlightening himself as a good spirit comes into his body. And 덕공, in which he makes himself complete as he realizes the truth. And as he realizes the truth, and the listening to the music belongs to 청공. In other words, when we listen to the music, it is not simply listening to the sound of music. Rather, we make a screen with the eyes closed and make a gorgeous landscape on the screen, and simultaneously we listen to the music as we think that the cosmic energy is concocted with the music sound coming down to our body through the crown chakra. At this time, we listen to a piece of classical music. I think it is appropriate to listen to one movement of a symphony, a piece of Korean popular song, and also other various songs of the world. It takes about 1 hour to finish the comprehensive mind discipline. I think that the most important thing is to practice this method at every dawn, every day. I make it a rule to take a rest on Sunday morning without disciplining myself. Furthermore, concerning yoga and mind control, you can reach the destination fast when you learn from the teachers of those subjects. You can also reach the destination fast when you learn 식단 and 신단 at the ordinary 선도원. 선도원 is the place where they learn 식단 and 신단. And especially as Mr. Hong Tae-soo is the expert of 신단, you can reach the destination fast when you learn from him. You can also learn how to practice in the weekend Zen practice program of the ordinary Buddhist temples or the summer camp of the Zen practice. Then, what sort of effect can we have after we practice the aforementioned mind discipline? I think that if we practice yoga or inhaling and exhaling practice of Danjan as we get up early at dawn, this activity seems to give us good health with other additional and considerable effect. In other words, the effect seems to appear to be the comprehensive phase of the individual causes. Here, I'd like to utter one thing, that is, we can experience the condition of the mind which is said to have entered the fifth dimension after the date of December 21st, 2012. There is the explanation concerning it in the page 234 of the book 초인 대사들이 답해주는 삶의 의문에 대한 백문백답 100 questions answered by the masters. This is the book, 100 questions. Generally, when you practice meditation, you can feel that your body has disappeared, and also you can feel refreshing, as if your spirit soared into the cosmic space. This time is said to be the fifth state world condition. When you finish the meditation practice and come back to the actual life, then it can be said to be the fourth dimension. In my case, I suppose that the state of my mind is this sort of fourth or fifth dimension when I finish the comprehensive mind discipline which I myself created, and when I finish the listening to the music which takes approximately 1 hour.